And I call her up, and she answered, and I'll never forget, she just was so happy. And she said, "Hey, I'm making chicken parmesan, and don't eat."
Fuck, Pat.
And I said, "Honey," I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it home. And she said, what are you talking about?" And I said, "I just got really hurt, really bad at work. I don't think I'm going to make it. I just want you to know how much I love you. I want Joey to know how much I love him. So I just want to tell you I love you. Can you please put Joey on the phone so I can tell him that I love him?" And he's 7 now. She goes, "Hang on, he's playing video games." And she starts screaming from Joey, "Come here, talk to your father." Well, let me back up. She says to me, before she calls my son, she goes, "Why did you call me? Why didn't you call 911?
Sweetheart.
I said, "I am 911. I said, "I need to say goodbye to Joey." So she goes, "Joey," and she calls him. And I said, "Buddy, listen to me." And he said, "Hey, Dad." And I said, "Buddy, listen to me. No matter what happens today, no matter how today ends up, you need to make me a promise that no matter what happens, you're going to always remember how much I love you." And he goes, "I know, I love you too, Dad." And he goes to hand the phone back to my wife. And I said, "Joey?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Listen to me, son. You need to understand, no matter what happens today, whether I come home or not, you need to always promise me that you're always going to remember how much I love you." And he said, "I love you too, Dad."
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Dispatch. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Do us a favor, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It helps out the algorithm. We really do appreciate it, but most importantly, hit that subscribe button, you guys. That really does help us out. Without further ado, we have Patrick not in the studio. I always say that every single time, but I can see him right here. Patrick, brother, we appreciate you coming in. You are a retired Atlanta police officer or detective. You have a crazy story. We refer to us by P-Shock, which P-Shock's one of my guys. He's definitely a solid dude. We were just talking about him off camera. I didn't know he was a freaking badass hockey player.
Nope, just found that out.
Fun fact of the day. P-Shock's a jack of all trades, brother. But welcome to the show, brother. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, brother, honor is all ours. You are a very busy man. You own 2 companies. You were just recently retired from the police department. Tell us about your companies, man.
First, I just want to say, these companies, did you own them while you were working as a police officer?
No. I started right after I retired.
Starting like a salty guest like that.
No, I did well on the test, so I didn't have to go that route.
You're just too afraid. Take the real test.
I don't know. He has a story about jumping in the fire with no protective gear. We'll have to hit that story here in a little bit.
No, if I was smart, I would have been a firefighter.
Oh, brother, you and me both. Yeah. I took the Chicago fire test.
You guys just give a shit because you just wish you could be us.
I would love to sit in a recliner all day, brother.
Huh? Oh, I'll tell you what. I told my son I was the den leader for his Cub Scout troop, and I told my son that all my buddies playing hockey with the police and fire team. All my buddies are firefighters. So we were going to visit the fire station, and I told them, the firefighters wash the truck all day. They get to work out. They don't do anything. They cook a big meal. They watch movies, play video games. And my wife said, "Don't tell them that. They're heroes." And she goes into her whole their hero spiel. And he was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and we walked in the fire station. None of my buddies are working.
Oh, I love it.
Not one person I know is working.
I love it.
And he looks, and as loud as can be, he goes, "Look, Mom, Dad wasn't lying. They do play video games all day. Look at the consoles and the recliners." And I felt like crawling under the fire truck. I was like, "Oh, guys, look, I'm friends with them." And I started naming names. I said I was just giving them shit.
Oh, I love it.
That's too funny.
Yeah. They were probably laughing.
Oh, they were hysterical. I thought it was hysterical.
That's awesome. You can't make that shit up.
That's hilarious.
Oh, brother. So let's the great intro. I love it. Let's roll into your story. How did you get into law enforcement, man?
I got into law enforcement. I kind of always wanted to do it when I was a kid, but I didn't have I didn't grow up in a great neighborhood, and I didn't have the smoothest path to law enforcement. I kind of got voluntold to leave school when I was in high school, and the choice was they'd expel me, or I could be signed out and go to night school and get my GED. So my father made me, go to night school and get my GED rather than be expelled and have to go through that whole rigmarole. Not because I was a bad kid, it's just because I was always getting into some sort of scrap or something like that. But it was a pretty rough neighborhood. I grew up in Brentwood, New York, which was not the greatest back in the day. But I wasn't a very good student until I decided what I wanted to do and locked in.
Right, dude. So you got into a few scuffles. Is that why you got kicked out of school?
Yeah, a little, yeah. It was no trouble, no stealing, no drugs, no nothing like that. But yeah, some of that stuff. But kind of always wanted to do it until that point. I was like, oh, my life's over. What am I going to do? Be a janitor all my life?
Right.
And then when I got my GED and I moved to met my wife, and we eventually moved to Georgia. And a couple of buddies of mine were like, "Hey, why don't you take the police test?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a degree." And they said, "Well, take it anyway." So I took the test. I aced it, and that was it. Next thing I know, I was getting a call.
That's all she wrote. And is Atlanta the first police department? That's the first department you tested for, and then that's who you got hired by?
I tested with several. I tested with Forsyth County Sheriff, City of Roswell, and Atlanta. And Atlanta called me and hired me, and then maybe 3 hours later, Forsyth County called me, and I turned the job down. I went with Atlanta. I had the choice of either, but I figured if I was really going to do police work, I wanted to go into the city and do it.
Right. Atlanta's definitely a great city to have a very, very, very busy career in.
Yeah, you learn quick.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, sure, trial by fire.
So how was the academy for you? Was it pretty easy going? Do you have any fun stories from the academy?
I don't think I was really truly prepared for the academy. I didn't think it was, for some reason, I guess in my mind, I thought it was going to be like almost like a college with PT, and that's what it is now. That It wasn't it back then, and they were great instructors. A couple of the instructors that we had there, I put up against any in the country, regardless of what department they are. But I think that being an instructor at a police academy, you have to really, really be passionate. You have to be hard, right? Like you can't just let people. If you're going to do it right, you don't want one of your recruits get killed because you fell short somewhere along the line. So it wasn't hard, but it was just exhausting. I was like, God.
Right. I'm assuming it was paramilitary type-esque.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm a big fan of that. What are your thoughts? Because we have a few academies here now in the Chicagoland area that are very more paramilitary, and then we also have them where they're like that college atmosphere. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely 100% think they should be paramilitary. I think you need to weed out the people that shouldn't be there. If somebody's going to quit because doing push-ups is hard or a run is hard or they don't want to do that, they're going to quit when that shots fired call comes up. So weed them out in the academy, get them out. And it's not that, not to say that they're not fit for the job or they're not good for the job, but I think that the way a lot of the policing is done now is they're almost wanting them to be, loving and caring, and and that's great. Be a good cop. I always believe in treating everybody as if you were going to talk to your best friend's mother.
Same.
And I spoke to people the way I would want them to speak to my parents if they called 911. Right. So, but not everybody's like that. So sometimes you got to go hands-on, and you have to be prepared for it. If you're not prepared for that and you're not willing to do that, or you're not willing to back up the person who's going hands-on with somebody, then you don't need to be there, and that's not the right job for you. So I 100% believe it should be paramilitary.
Agreed. And you see videos of police officers going hands-on all the time, and they're, I guess a lack of a better word is they just pussyfoot around it. Like they're just grabbing them like, sir, stop, sir, stop. Like that's just not how.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that's.
Don't grab for that.
Yeah.
No, if you're putting hands on someone, you're putting hands on somebody. You know,
Yeah.
assist them to the ground, take them to the ground,
Yeah.
take the fight out of them. You know, you're giving them that opportunity to fight back, and then in reality, that's going to cause possibly more harm to them or an additional officer or anyone who's just innocently standing by.
100%. And my feeling was, I don't want to go hands-on with you. I would prefer to sit here and talk to you and treat you like an adult and treat you like, you know, you're a human being just like me, right? Like you deserve respect just like I deserve respect. But
correct.
I am not making the decision to go hands-on. You're making me make that decision. So once I go hands-on, I'm going to decide when I think it's over.
Right.
And to somebody else that's looking on, even to another officer, I don't care if it looks like it's excessive force or whatever. My feeling is if he brought me to that point, I'm going to turn it off when I don't think he's going to do anything.
Right.
So if I get one cuff on him and he says, okay. Well, no, I don't think it's okay. I think the second I take my foot off the gas, you're going to try to do something or swing at me. And so you may get hit one more time or something like that, because I got to know in my gut that you're not going to fight me again, that you're not going to try to bring this back up the minute I let my foot off the gas. So
right, and that's when mistakes happen.
Absolutely.
Out of curiosity, your academy, was it like a in-house Atlanta academy? How did they do that?
We drove in every morning. So we got to go home.
Yeah, it was hosted by Atlanta.
Yes, it was Atlanta.
Because I
Atlanta
know
had their own.
Just one of the things I saw, we were talking about, like the lax nature of some academies now, and it's kind of something I saw, like I noticed when I was going through the fire academy, is you'd have these people that it's like, why are they still here? Like why are they getting passed, right? And if it was like not improving PT, or they constantly did stupid mistakes and things like that, you're like, why are you still here? But I started thinking about it the one day, and it's third party.
Yeah.
It's an academy that's getting paid by other departments to put their people through. So it's like, are they going to kick them out? Maybe. But at the same time, they're going to try to pass these guys because, hey, they're still collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, and it's usually the third party department's the one that's going to decide. So like when I went to, it was called Triton. It was the Cook County Academy. And they also have their own academy for their own guys for Cook County, but then they host an academy for all the other departments in the area that send them there. So that recruit could keep continuously fucking up, but then they can report back to their department and be like, hey, you know, it's Matson or Romeoville or Bolingbrook, and be like, hey, listen, your guy's fucking up. This is what's happening. And it's their call to take him out of the academy or not.
Yeah, no, it was the same thing at Romeoville. You know, there was, I forget if it was like weekly or whatever it was, they'd give reports on everybody. I was going through myself, so they weren't reporting to anybody but me. But there were definitely people that it was like, how are you guys still keeping this guy in? One guy in particular, he finally got kicked, but it was the day of the final. It's like, dude, this guy's cost us so many pain and agony through like stupid mistakes. Why is he still here?
Dude, there's always that one person in the academy class that makes everyone suffer.
Oh, it's terrible. Or that ask questions the last 10 minutes of class.
Right.
You know, you're like,
yeah.
I remember we had the 3 o'clock rule. If anybody asks a question after 3 o'clock, we all want to kill them.
Do you have any noteworthy stories from the academy, or do you want to move on to your career?
No, yeah, my academy class was pretty good. I like I said, I really respect the instructors, especially now looking back. I think the reason why I lived through what I lived through was due mostly in part to the instructors. This one instructor, Greg Rosser, he instilled the fear of God in you, and the minute that badge went on my chest, it was like totally different person. It was weird. It was like this guy scared the hell out of me for the last 6 months,
Right.
But but yeah, I think that that was it. The only thing that I didn't like was our final week in the academy. We had to go to SWAT week, and the chief at the time put us out on a 6 week holiday detail. So he stopped our academy class and he put us out on the street. We'd have one officer assigned to us, and we were out there with a police vest on, with a gun belt on, but no gun.
Oh, that's safe.
And yeah, exactly. It's really safe. And standing out there in the freezing cold from 3 in the afternoon to 11 at night. And it was 6 weeks. And then he broke us up again for, I think it was the NBA All-Star weekend. But it ended up being like 5 days. We missed the academy. So 7 weeks total. They prolonged our academy. So when we went back, we hadn't been PTing every day and
Right.
or any of that. And we're we were having camaraderie with other officers, and we just felt like we were not salty, I guess, but we almost felt like we were feeling our oats, like, oh, we were out there with the guys, and we're getting to hang with the boys and seeing what it's like. And next thing you know, we're back in the academy, and they're, screaming at us, we got to go run. And, we're out on the street for 6 weeks. And, that was on us. We should have been PTing every day, just like
Right.
we normally did. But, we went to SWAT week, and that's like your hell week, I guess you call it. They're just they're gonna smoke you every break. They're gonna smoke you for an hour and a half every morning. And when we showed up at the gate, I'll never forget, my friend Chris and my friend Luke were sitting at the gate, and we're waiting for the SWAT to open up the gates, and they're a little nervous. And I said, and I think they're both captains now. But they're nervous. And I said, "What are you worried about?" And he said, "Well, they're gonna kill us." I said, "Do you think I give a shit what they do to us? They're not going to fire us.
Right.
We're basically certified. They're not going to just let us go." So we were in there, and they're making us do push-ups, and I noticed that we'll do 40, 50 push-ups, and then next thing you know, another SWAT guy is jumping on the ground going, "Come on, 51, 52." And I'm like, "Wait, they just switched out." And then we're doing jumping jacks, and I'm like, "They just switched out again." And I'm like, "You know what? I'm done. I'm done." So I literally just started like moving my arms and going up on my toes, and they circle me and start screaming at me that I'm a quitter. And I went, "Yeah, I guess." And they put me up in there's boxes up at the top of the basketball court with big cues in them. And they said, "You go in the quitter's box because you're a quitter. You're going to quit on everybody." And I said, "Okay, but I'm not." My feeling was, I'm not putting out like them. So by the end of the week, they all come in the room and they congratulate all of us and everything else. And they said, "From this point forward, we're going to treat, even though you don't have your badge and your gun, we're going to treat you as if you're brothers. So there's no more dogging you from this point forward." And one of the guys got up and said, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. Apoian owes me like 2,500 push-ups." And they were like, "No, he doesn't owe you nothing. He's one of us now." And but it was funny because I was like, "I really owe 2,500 push-ups?" Yeah,
Just pull
because it was like
a number out of his ass.
every break he was like, you owe me another 50 for just not doing shit, And it was like, I'm adding these up. He's like, 2,500 push-ups. Shit, I'll be here for the next 6 months.
I was gonna say that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
could see maybe like 200, maybe, right? But
yeah.
2,500,
Oh no.
Jesus.
I wasn't doing shit.
I don't
I
blame
mean,
you, bro.
when they ran, they were jumping out of the car and switching out of the car, and I'm like, I'm just in a slow jog. I'm like, ugh, my asthma.
Right.
I think I got a bronchial infection. So,
I got the
but the guys were like,
bronchitis.
"You really don't." My classmates were like, "You really don't give a shit." I'm like, "No. What are they going to do? They're not going to fire us."
Right, exactly. So,
So
so you made it through the academy. I remember my graduation day, as I'm sure you remember yours. Where
mhm.
you, I'm sure, was a very proud moment in your life.
Oh yeah, it's a huge sense of accomplishment.
Right.
And the it was a mixed feeling too, because I felt like when we snapped that picture at the end, I thought, this is the last time I'm going to be with this group of people, all of us in the same room together.
Right.
So it was a little bit disheartening, but you're excited to move on to your career and get that going. But it was a huge sense of accomplishment, especially not ever getting to walk across the stage to receive my diploma or anything like that.
Right.
I felt like, I did it. This wasn't that difficult.
Awesome. Now, were your parents there? Your wife?
So my mother died when I was young. So my wife was there. My father couldn't come down from New York, but my wife was there, and um, just spending that time with her and getting that moment with her. My nephew was living with me at the time, so he came too. So it was good. I got to have a little bit of family there.
That's awesome, brother. I remember my dad. My dad was a military police officer, so I remember him pinning the badge on me, and that was definitely a moment that
That's
I will
cool.
always remember for the rest of my life, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
very cool. Yeah, for sure. I actually have his badge over behind Carrie over his right shoulder, on our coin wall or our coin display that my dad actually made as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely a cool moment. So you were then not, I guess your new mission would be not mission, but you were now stationed at the department. So what district were you in, and then what was your first spot, brother, and how was that for you?
So my first and only stop was Zone 6, which is the east side of Atlanta. It goes from northeast all the way down to southeast. I went there and I did a variety of things. It was, I had a foot beat at first. I did a foot beat for a while, and then they assigned me as a wagon driver to the plainclothes unit, and got to work with those guys and see what that was like, which was really really fun.
Oh, I bet.
A lot of those guys were my good buddies, so they were, once we need a wagon driver, it was like, hey, get a point over here, and so I got to do that for a while, and then I went on patrol just to learn how to police. And then in 2004, when my son was born, I went to morning watch because my wife worked downtown, and we needed to, we didn't couldn't afford, daycare and all
Yeah.
that. So she was working for a law firm downtown, and I was driving home. We'd switch off, and I'd go home and try to nap during the day or do whatever, but I'd have to watch this infant, which it was
Tough.
brutal. Oh, it was so rough. I remember always feeling like, somebody described it as you look like wet ham when you work morning watch. It's just you just have that pasty look to you that just you look clammy all the time. You just never look healthy.
You look like a wet
Um,
ham.
yeah, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But I was hardly getting any sleep. So that lasted for a while, and then eventually I was like, I cannot do this anymore. My wife went to work part time, and we worked it out where I just went to evening watch, and she stayed home with the kid as much as she could, and then her mother started watching them.
Which helps out a lot,
Oh, huge! It was
tremendously.
huge.
So how was the shift from days to nights?
It was, the hardest part was falling asleep driving home.
Yeah.
I live about 50 minutes north of Atlanta. So there were a couple of times where I did the head nod, and one time I remember I woke up and I just hit the brakes because I was headed right towards the side of well, I would have bounced off the guardrail, but I was headed right towards the side of a bridge, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that scared the hell out of me.
I've had that a few times, brother.
That is the worst. So, like 9 months before I got injured or so, we moved into our house, and we were 55-minute drive from work, and there'd be mornings where I'd like get off the highway and like be going down, country roads to my house. I'm like, holy shit, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And you think about it, you're like,
Hmm.
I was up all night. I probably should have just crashed out in the bunk for like an hour or two before I headed home. But yeah, you're like, holy crap, man! Like just total autopilot.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I've had that quite a few times myself, driving home, and you like wake up as your car's like literally coming off the road, and you're hitting the
Yeah.
gravel, and you're grabbing the wheel, and you're like, oh my, like I roll the windows down and try to wake up or slap myself in the face or something
Yeah.
because, yeah, that's what you need, like surviving a whole shift and then you die from driving home, like what the
Yeah.
fuck, dude?
Exactly. Exactly.
So like little sidetrack.
Oh, here we go.
So I was actually my wife. She's a operating room nurse, so they get called in, right? And my wife always gets smoked when she's on call. Like the last weekend she worked Saturday, Sunday. She was there. I think it was like 16 hours between the Saturday and Sunday, right? So I was talking to my mother-in-law while she was out because she was also an operating room nurse. We're just kind of like talking about the BS of it sometimes, right? Like these doctors sleep there, so they don't really care if they're calling in their nurses because like they're already there. And she started telling a story about how they had a woman that actually fell asleep. 'Cause my mother-in-law, she worked 47 hours straight one time.
Oh God.
And they had another woman that like same kind of thing. She was there for however many hours it was, and she fell asleep on her way into a call and hit a telephone pole and died.
Oh God.
But like,
That's terrible.
nobody was ever held accountable.
No.
You know,
Mhm.
just you should have just slept at the hospital. Then it's like, well, you guys don't really give us billets to stay in.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. So for your early career, is there any stories that kind of like stick out to you, like now to this day?
Well, I was watching P Shock's episode, and just like him, like there's funny stories. There's just stupid, goofy stories. I got a call one night. I was working morning watch, and as soon as I got in the car, she gave me a call of a indecent person's call, and I'll never forget. It was like a white male in the parking lot of an apartment complex, pleasuring himself with a flashlight in his rectum. And
Now it's a party. So Elena
I
gets
was like,
down, huh?
what?
Was it
So I
a
said,
mag light?
well. So I said, radio, go to 2, and she went over to surveillance, and she starts laughing. She said, yes, you heard me right. Before I said a word, she said, yeah, you heard me right. So I
So it's gonna
get
be
to
a
this
good day.
parking lot, and I'm like, oh shit, it's already like, what is this? And I'll never forget. It's really disgusting, but it's a funny story. One of the guys, I'm on my way there. I get there, and there's a bunch of people standing out in the parking lot, and they were all pointing. They said he went up to that apartment. So I go and I peek through. I had to walk up this metal stairwell, and it was a second floor apartment. There's a little balcony, nothing really. It's just maybe 4 by 4. And I knock on I look through the window, and I could see him sitting on the couch, just staring there, like as if he's staring into space, and stark naked. And I knock on the door, and I'm knocking on the window, and I'm looking through, and he comes by the window, and you could tell he's just on something, whatever he's on. He's high as a kite, and the sink was in front of the window, and he said, "Who's there?" And I said, "Atlanta police. Can you open the door?" And he grabbed a butcher's knife out of the sink.
Smart.
So I was like, "Oh, I can see this, right?" So right away I just took my aspartame and I broke the window, and I took my pepper spray and I said, "Dude, I will gas you in your own kitchen. Don't even think of coming at that door." And so he put it down, and he opens up the door, and I cuff him. And at this point, another guy had arrived, and he's field training somebody.
Perfect.
And
Perfect training call.
we're like, yeah. So I handcuffed the guy, and we're standing in the middle of his kitchen, and I'm like, what do we do with him? We got to get him some pants or some shorts or something. So the one guy goes, he goes, I'll go. Can I go look in your thing and get you a pair of shorts? And he says, yeah. So he goes in the bedroom, and he comes out, and he's got gloves on. He comes out, and he's holding a mag light, and it's got all like the goo on it, and he tosses it at the rookie, and it hit him right in the chest, and he goes, put that in evidence.
Oh,
I
gross.
freaking howled. I could not stop laughing. I thought it was so disgusting but so funny at the same time. And he got him his shorts, but that was like, I was like, Jesus Christ, the shit, like we see everything.
Everything.
But like Dennis said, there's it wasn't until his episode really where I started thinking about, there are calls that I blacked out, and there are calls that I've blacked out for over 20 years that I thought about after his episode, and I'm like, God, why did I always block that out? And then I actually do a lot of work down in the area where I used to work. So I I thought about it and I said there are certain streets that I don't drive down,
Yeah.
and it's because of those calls where you're just like, oh, that's where that dead baby was, and
Yeah.
I had a girl. The one call I thought about was there was a young girl. She was probably 17, 16, something like that, and she got pregnant. She didn't want to tell her parents, so she had her baby in her bedroom, and it was under a blanket, and she tried to hide it under the blanket, and the
Oh,
parents called. And when I got there, I pulled the blanket back, and the baby was dead, but it still had its umbilical cord and everything attached to it, and the placenta and everything was
yeah.
there. And and you sit there and you're like, what the, like, why the fuck did I have to see this?
Yeah.
Like, just talk to your parents. Like, it's just it destroys you, it wrecks you, and you wonder why you go home with all this baggage at the end of our day. And I saw a great quote, and I posted it today on my social media, on my Twitter and Facebook, and it said, "Never let your kids feel the rain from your storm."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's true. It's that's what I always went home and tried to do. But I thought, Jesus, I blocked that out for all these years, and I even realized I avoided the street that I always avoid that street that call was on, and I didn't realize why.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this
So this
career,
episode,
yeah, this career has a lot of storms, brother. It, it,
oh yeah,
it brings a lot of storms to you. And if you don't process
yeah,
it, then your family suffers. That's definitely a great quote. I'm gonna have to go to your Instagram or your Facebook
yeah,
and
yeah,
grab that.
definitely grab that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Um,
That's definitely that's tough. But I want to kind of go back real quick to your mag light. How big was that mag light?
it was a normal size mag light. It was, it was, yeah, no, it was.
Dude, you know what that story made me think of? I'm sure you've seen it circling around on social media, and like the viewers have seen it. That sheriff in Florida where they arrested the dude getting off in the bathroom at like the park or whatever.
No,
So they
I
like
missed
kicked
it.
so they like kicked him out, and I forgot what he did. And he like went across the street and did something, and they're like, "Oh, great. Well, now that's what it was. He trespassed on train tracks." And they're like, "All right, now we're going to arrest you. We gave you a chance, and you just went and like ran onto the train tracks." Well, they find out that this guy's got like 97 trespassing uh, things on his record, right? So they're like, "Well, we're going to book you." And they sent him through like the body scanner, their jail.
Oh
And he's got
God,
a full fucking Stanley thermos up his ass.
Holy shit!
they don't call it a prison wallet for no reason, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, what the hell? Like, dude was just walking around like nothing. So the sheriff like gave this conference. And it was all over social media. I think I actually saw it on the news. They were talking about it.
That's
But
insane.
yeah, they like showed the picture, and there's a Stanley thermos in this guy.
What's people's fetishes in putting things up their ass? Like that's so fucking weird.
Got me,
Not me either.
got me. Couldn't tell you.
Oh, brother. I do want to touch on the mental health aspect of that baby call, but we'll get to it later in the podcast when we kind of touch on that topic in general and of how you kind of handle that aspect of your life. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of your career, brother.
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Hey, guys, this episode is brought to you by Murphy Carter Law. This one, I'm proud to announce, this is a great partnership with us. They are a phenomenal law firm. I've known Rick for a very long time. He's a fantastic guy. Heart of gold. He supports organizations like Project Fire Buddies who give back to kids with terminal illness. This guy cares. He is a staunch advocate for first responders. He's just a blue collar guy. He really is. He was a union construction worker at one point, and now he's just a shark in the courtroom. And that's just a fact. You're not going to go wrong by going with Murphy Carter Law. I promise you that. They will fight for you like they fight for their own family, like they fight for their mother, like they fight for their father, their brother, or their sister. That's just who they are. And they advocate for you guys. I promise they will fight for you guys tooth and nail. That's what they're all about. to make you guys whole again, or to get you close to that as possible, and by any means necessary. They've won major cases already. I have some notes over here. They have $11.5 million truck accident case. They have a $9.5 million medical malpractice case and another $7.1 million delivery truck accident. They handle their business. If you're looking for a lawyer, if you've been in a situation like Carrie and I have, Murphy Carter Law, check them out. Go to murphycarterlaw.com. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Tell them that Beyond the Dispatch sent you.
That's how my dad was. You know, my father was like, you know, first of all, when we fucked up, my father would think it was funny half the time, you know.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah. He caught me messing with all. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay.
I can cut it out if you want.
He caught me one time with a girl, and I was 16, and he said, "I don't have to worry about you. You'll always get ahead in life."
Yeah.
And, you know, but I was like, "Oh shit!"
It's a pretty cool dad. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's probably some shit I would say for sure.
The best was he kind of just crept away, so she didn't notice. I was like, afterwards, I thought about it. I was like, that was fucking cool. Yeah, you know,
It's a true homeboy right there, brother.
That's pretty fucking cool.
That's pretty fucking cool. Oh, I guarantee your kid thinks the same thing about you, brother.
Yeah, I hope so.
I bet he. Oh, I know he does for sure. Especially after the career and all the things that you've been through. Your kid probably holds you up for a very high, or holds you to a very high standard for sure in his mind. I believe so.
Yeah. No, and yeah, we got a very solid relationship, my son and my daughter and I. So,
which is good.
But
yeah, because in this career field, it can take a toll on you. It can take a toll on your family, and if you let it, for sure. So hats off to you, brother, for making sure and making it a point to not take over your life and take over your family like a lot of cops do.
Well, that's it. You can't become your identity.
Yeah.
And I always felt like this, and I realized this more after my injuries, that too many cops and too many firefighters, whatever you want to call it, they think highly of themselves. You know, like there's that hero complex. You know, like people are calling you. People used to call me a hero all the time, and that's during, and you can feed into that. You can buy into that
very easily.
The matter is anybody is capable of being the hero to anybody at any given point in time.
Right.
You don't have to have the uniform on. All we're doing is we have a job and a career where we have a free ticket to the greatest show on earth, and we love what we do. I don't know if a cop hates what he does. I always said to them, just retire.
Right.
Just retire. We're being furloughed. I can't afford this. We'll retire. Quit. Go somewhere else. This job doesn't need you. It's we need to love what we do, and I did. I truly loved every minute of it. There were times where I'd get annoyed, but all in all, I wouldn't have changed it to play center field for the New York Yankees. It's just how I felt. But to me, and like I said, I realized this more after my accident, is we're not the ones who are heroes. So I don't look at other cops or firefighters and tell my kids, oh, those are heroes. No, the heroes are the wives, the husbands, the children, the parents, the brothers and sisters that know that we have a calling to do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they kiss us goodbye and they support us in that decision, knowing full well that we may not come home after walking out that door. They keep that all suppressed inside them, and they keep that fear and that anxiety, and they keep it all at bay, and they don't let them negative thoughts creep into their lives because they know we're doing what we love. So to me, if anything, those are the heroes. And that is where in law enforcement, for first responders, military, we need to understand that those people that are saying goodbye to them and letting them go do what we want to do, those are truly the heroes, because we love what we do. And I don't think any of us ever thought about when we walked out that door about not coming home.
Right.
but I know for sure my wife and my son did, especially after I was hurt and went back to work.
Yeah, brother.
So
Yeah, and they got that call.
yeah,
In that situation did happen for you. It happened for me, right? So it's
yeah,
like that. It's a lot of guys go through their career thinking that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. Like I'm never going to get shot, or I'm never going to get hurt, or I'm never going to do this. And then until it happens to you, and there's no reason, there's no rhyme or reason of it, but it can happen. It will happen. It's just not if, it's just when.
yeah. Exactly. That's. So, did you go back to work at all after your injuries?
No, I tried. After my injury, it was like a year later, and I went to go see one of my doctors, and I'm like, I would love to go back and continue my career. And he's like, you're not going back. You're a higher risk for stroke. If you cut off this left side of your neck, your vertebral artery, the right one's missing. So if you cut off the left, like you're gonna have a stroke or a heart attack. And I'm like, well, how can I do that to my wife, to my mother, to my father, to my son, literally after I basically shouldn't be here in the first place? I should be dead. So it
Yeah.
was one of the hardest things I had to do in my life is file for my medical pension. I'm sure as it was for you to separate from the career that you loved, that you set out to do. And I didn't have a backup plan, as I'm sure you didn't have a backup plan.
No, I had nothing. As a matter of fact, I was forced to retire from Atlanta PD, but I went to work for a small sheriff's office, and one day I kind of I wasn't happy, and they knew I wasn't happy, but I noticed that I was going to work again. I just noticed one day there was just an uneasy feeling with my wife and my son, and my daughter didn't know any better. Um, but there was an uneasy feeling with them, and I went into work that night, and I think that was when I made the decision. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. It's not fair to them. This isn't about me. This is about them, and this is about them being happy. And I don't need my son to. My son was 7 when I called him to say goodbye, so
God.
I don't need him to go through life with anxiety issues or these issues, or because I choose to stay in this career.
Right.
Um, so that was my focal point. But yeah, it's something I miss. I do miss it. I miss it a lot. And if you ever see my social media, I'm constantly posting about missing persons or cold cases, just because it's just I love to see justice served.
Agreed.
That get that son of a bitch who kidnapped and murdered this little kid or something, or shot this person in a convenience store. I just love to see those people just be served what they deserve.
The justice that they deserve. 100%, brother. I'm definitely the same way. I think about it all the time. Like, fuck, man, I wish I was back. I wish I was with my guys. I wish I was, still making that difference. But in hindsight, we still have a mission to do. And, that's your new mission
Yeah,
is with your 2 businesses and your family, and making up for lost times that you missed out on, and birthdays and holidays and, date nights with your wife. And
yeah,
it's a different chapter in our lives. And that's just kind of, it's all about perspective, man. It really is. And same thing, if you're still a cop nowadays, or you're still a firefighter, you're still in the service, make the most of it, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And you and I
yep,
both know that for a fact. And I want to dive into your accident, but before we do, let's tell everyone a little bit like your progression through Atlanta, what you did, because I know you made
okay.
detective. Let's dive into that aspect, and then we'll go to your accident.
So I don't even know what year it was I made detective. Maybe 2007, 2008. I made detective. And typically in Atlanta back then, I don't know what it's like now. Typically back then, you would just get moved along. Okay, you're in zone 6. Now we're going to put you in zone 3, and you're going to learn a different part of the city. But I was so dialed in. When I was on patrol, they they actually moved me off the watch. Well, I went to work plainclothes for a little while before detective. So I worked plainclothes within the zone, and then I went back into uniform and on the watch, and then they moved me off the watch and made me the burglary officer, where you kind of follow up on all the burglaries to assist the detectives. And that was kind of my stepping stone between the plainclothes and then that. It was kind of the progression towards making investigator. Um, So I did that, and I enjoyed that. I was good at it. So when I made investigator, they didn't move me. They kept me in the zone, which was odd. It wasn't heard of back then. But I think the reason why that was is because I would treat everybody, like I said, I believed in treating everybody well and treating everybody with respect. And it
Right.
didn't matter if you were a crackhead or a business owner. I was going to treat you kind. I was going to be nice to you. And I gave everybody my cell phone number. If drug dealers had my cell phone number, and homeless people, uh, prostitutes, business owners, regular citizens, I would give anybody my cell phone if they wanted it. My feeling was anybody will call you at any time
Mm-hmm.
and give you information, but nobody's going to talk to you when you're out on the street
Oh,
trying to
agreed.
figure out who just shot this guy. And that really helped me when I became an investigator. Is I would get calls and they'd be like, Detective Pat, hey, um, the burglary over there at Benacity. This is where all the stuff is. It's over in this apartment on Bixby Court. So if you go over there and knock on the door, you just do a knock and talk. They'll probably going to let you in. If they're not willing to press charges, they'll probably let you in and come get their stuff. And like things like that would happen. So it was like perfect,
Absolutely.
But so I made detective, and then in 2009, one of the guys I worked with, sure he's not going to appreciate me telling this story. He fell down the stairs. His cat was on the steps, and I don't know, whatever the cat did, he tripped him down the stairs, and he fell and broke both of his ankles.
That's a bad day.
Yeah. So I threw together a fundraiser for him, and we raised probably about two grand, something like that. Just kind of having the guys get together and meet up at one place after work. And
That's awesome.
I asked the bar to donate back a percentage of sales if we filled up the place. It was a slow night for them, and we packed the place out. And then everybody came in and just threw money in the till, and we ended up giving them a couple grand. And then I started doing that on a regular basis with cops and firefighters, and then started doing it for if guys had kids that were sick. Sometimes somebody's kid would be sick and they'd be in the hospital, and they'd have to exhaust all their medical leave and not work extra jobs and things like that. So started doing benefits for those guys. And like I said, it was both on the cops and firefighter side. And I thought, what would be good to get the community involved in this. So I thought about, hey, let's do some coat drives for the homeless. So as fall came around, I started doing coat drives for the homeless, and then I started doing back to school supply drives for back to school time, and food drives for people in need, and just doing all these things within the community to bring the community and police and everybody together. So it was really a good way to connect everybody.
Right.
And that was in 2009. So then we actually made it a 501c3 called Humble Heroes. And then we started doing things like the police versus fire hockey games, and all that sort of stuff, where we would just get people to come out and support. And we started doing it all over Metro Atlanta. It didn't have to just be Atlanta cops or firefighters. It was all over Metro Atlanta, and really, really making a difference, which it blew my mind. It was crazy how quick it was growing, and I'm like, I'm just an idiot who wants to go solve crimes. I'm not, I'm not anything special. Why is everybody showing an interest or giving me accolades over this? So started that in about 2009, and that was going well. I wasn't taking anything from it. We would literally do a fundraiser or a benefit, and the person would be there. And at the end of the night, I would turn around and just hand them all the cash.
I love it, brother.
And somebody was like, you do have to report this on your taxes. You do have to file taxes at some point. I was like, well, it's all cash. Who's going to know?
Right.
So, I was doing that, and they say that you always have one call that changes your life. Well, I've had a few. And then in 2010, I was on my way into work. It was June or July in Atlanta. It was brutally hot. And driving into work, and I got a call from the day watch supervisor, and he said, "Are you on your way in?" And I said, "Yeah, but I'm not due in until till 8 o'clock." He said, "Well, when you get here, we're going to need your help." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And they said, "We have a missing 5-year-old." I said, "Okay." I said, "What? Can you give me the details?" He said, "Well, the kid was in foster care, and she looks like she ran away." So I get into work, and my mentality, and I think everybody's mentality is, I want to be the person to find her.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
find her. And all day I just drove around. I'm like, I'm gonna find this kid. I'm gonna find this kid. And it was like something out of a movie. And I say it sounds so cheesy, because if I saw it in a movie, I'd be like, oh, that is so ridiculous. But it really happened. I found her, and I was on the overpass in Glenwood Avenue, and I saw her walking towards me as I'm coming up over the bridge. I see this little girl walking by herself just at the start of the bridge. So I stopped my Taurus. I had a Ford Taurus. I stopped it, pulled it over, I turned the lights on, and I got out, and I walked to the side, and I came across the radio, and I said, I think I found her. I'm on the Glenwood overpass. And she came running to me. She'd been out all day. She was hot and sweaty and hadn't eaten. And she came running to me. And as soon as she got to me, it was like then that the air unit came over top and was kind of circling around. And couldn't hear herself think. And I'm just kind of giving him a hand signal, like, I got her. And I came across the radio, and I said, I got her. And I could hear them say, yeah, he's with the child now. Put her in the car. They flew off. It was so corny sounding, but it was like exactly the way it happened.
Right.
And, so I got on the radio, and I said to the supervisor who was with the case manager, I said, you're going to have to meet me at the McDonald's on Moreland Avenue, because this kid hasn't eaten or had anything to drink all day, so I got to get some food in her. So they said, okay, meet us back at the house. Take her to McDonald's. I give them her starting time, and I get to McDonald's. I give my ending time. And the whole time, all she's saying to me is, please don't take me back.
Oh, God.
Please don't take me back. And it's ripping my heart out. It's I'm like, God, I can't not take you back. I have to take you back. And I'm talking to her, and I'm trying to tell her jokes. I'm trying to cheer her up, and she just does not want to go back. And she's begging me and begging me and begging me. So I said, the supervisor came across the radio, said, bring her back to the precinct. Special victims units just wants to talk to her before you bring her back here. So I brought her back to the precinct, and obviously they just want to kind of debrief her.
Right.
Away because somebody touched you or something like that. And
right.
Just, no. I just want my mom. I don't want to be there. I just don't like the place. I don't want to be there. I don't even think she asked for her mom, but she just didn't want to be there. And I think she asked me to take her home. And I just was, it's like getting punched in the chest.
Yeah.
Of all the calls I've been on and everything else, here's this little 5-year-old girl that's just making me like tear up, and feels like she just punched me in the middle of my chest. And we got to the house, and I'm holding her hand, and she's just gripping my hand like there's no tomorrow. And I walked up to the steps. The case manager and the supervisor were on the steps, and I looked in the house, and I said to the case manager, "Can I talk to you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, I'm not leaving her here." And she said, "Well, this is where she's got to stay. This is the Taj Mahal compared to where she came from." And I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding. There's got to be some better option. She said, "No." She said, "There's nothing better." And I said, "Can I take her?" And she's like, "What do you mean, can you take her?" I said, "Can I take her home with me?" And she goes, have you been through the training through the state? And I said, I'm a detective. I mean, I got the background clearance. So, I'm sitting there going like, and that's what's going through my head is obviously I passed the background to be here.
Right.
You trusted me whether to take her to McDonald's. You trusted me along with it for the last 2.5 hours. Why can't you just come check on her at my house? And she said, no. If you haven't been through the training for the state and you're not a relative, you can't take her. So I had to leave the kid there. And I went home that night and I got home really late. I think I worked an extra job and I got home really late. My son was sleeping. And what was he? He was probably 6 at the time. And I'm just sitting on the end of his bed. And my wife walked in his room and she looked at me and she said, rough day? And I said, yeah, let's talk. Let's have a talk. And she said, what's going on? And I said, this is going to sound like it's coming out of left field. I said, but we're adopting a kid out of foster care. She said, what? And I said, we're going to adopt a kid out of foster care. And I said, I think you need to see what I saw today. And obviously it was like, what the hell, just sleep on it. Right. And, I think she saw in my face and she knew in my heart that I was not, it wasn't changing. My son was lucky enough to sleep in a nice bed, and this house was just there to have a bunch of foster kids in it that were just dollar signs at the end of the day. And so we went and we did I guess whatever the class is that they talk about if you're interested in fostering a child. And we went through everything. They said it would take about 6 months. So we start the process, and this was 2010. We start the process, and we're just about to the end. And all I can think about is this little girl. And we get just about to the end, and they turn around and they call us up and they said, your case manager quit. We have to start the entire process over.
Stop.
So I'm floored. I'm pissed. Is this kid going to remember me? I don't know, or is she going to remember me as the person who left her at this place and abandoned like everybody else in her life? So we end up going through the whole process. And again, we get a call that our case manager quit.
What the fuck?
And I'm sitting there going like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So now it's 2011. And July 21st, 2011 rolls around. And I'm working an extra job in Kirkwood. That's a southeast, northeast part of Atlanta. It's right there on the border. It's on the east side. And an investigator from Zone 5 comes across the radio. And he says, is there anybody in the area of College and Sisson? And I'm on Sisson Avenue. And I'm headed towards College. And I said, yeah, I'm right here. What do you got? And I pull my car over. And he proceeds to give me the description. He says, we just had a robbery in Midtown a little while ago. And the GPS on the cell phone, I guess this was in the early days of GPS, because I was like, how the hell do you know where the cell phone is?
Right.
And I just remember thinking like, how the fuck do you know that? And he says, well, it's coming up at that location. And it's been there for about 40 minutes. And I said, the only thing that's at the intersection of College and Sisson is at the time it was a row of stores, but they were all abandoned except for one barber shop. And it was 2 Rastafarian brothers that owned it. And they used to say, I knew they sold weed out of it, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like they were moving copious amounts, and we had other things to do, and they weren't an issue. So I get to College and Sisson, and the beat officer meets me there, and he pulls in, and it's a black officer, and he meets me there, and that's important because I'll tell you why after this. he meets me there, and I tell him what we're looking for. I said it's a black male, about 6'2", 240, white T-shirt, and either black or navy cargo pants was the description I was given. So we walk in, and there's these two guys with long dreadlocks, and one of the things he said was he had a low haircut. And I was, well, I know it ain't them.
Right.
And there's a guy sitting down getting his hair cut. And so we're standing there, and we're kind of talking to each other at the front door. And I said, just give him a minute. Let's see when his haircut's done. Let's see what he's wearing. And then we'll ask him for his name. No intention of putting handcuffs on him. No intention of anything. Not just want a name. Just want you to come back on file. Give me your name. The investigator from Zone 5 can put you in a photo lineup, and we'll go. He can go from there. I'm not a witness to this, so I'm not going to put my career on the line or do anything. And so the guy gets up, takes off the thing that's around
The
his
cape, yeah.
shirt, white T-shirt, and he's wearing navy shorts, cargo shorts, and he's about 6'2", 240.
Bingo.
So I said to him, I said, what is your name? And he said, Michael. And I said, what's your last name? He gives me a last name. And I'm sitting there, and he gives me the last name. I'm sitting there going, I know him. I'm pretty sure that's his last name, but I don't think he's Michael. So the other officer goes over to ACIC to check him. And
ACIC is your guys' online system for verification.
Yeah. So for licensing, checking and all that. So
yeah. And when he says, sorry, real quick, when he says file, he's checking about the file. So like your driver's license file, it gives your information, your first, last name, and date of birth. Sorry for people who don't know what that means.
Yes, exactly. Sorry.
No, you're good, brother.
So he's running them, and I see the outline, little square outline in his pocket, and I'm not really trying to be a jerk. I'm just sitting there, and I knew it was the phone, right? And I said, is that a knife in your pocket? And I tapped his pocket. I said, that's not a knife, is it? And he goes, no, but his eyes light up, and I can see on his face that he knows exactly why we're there.
Yep.
And he's standing there for a second, and then all of a sudden, he just, with everything he had, he just pushed me and pushed the other guy. And I wasn't supposed to be working the neighborhood patrol that night. I was supposed to be at jiu-jitsu. And I told them I didn't want to work, but they were like, yeah, you got to, we need you. There's a meeting at 7. And Hayes is this tall, thin guy who probably weighs 160, 170. And I'm about 240 at the time. And Hayes is in front of me, and this guy opened. So he pushed us, hits the door, runs out the door, and grabs the car handle for a Honda. And there's a woman and 2 children in the back seat, and he's screaming, go, go, go. And she's screaming, what are you doing? Get out, stop. What are you doing? What's going on? Stop. And at this point, I honestly don't know if he's carjacking her or if he's with her.
Right.
And so he's screaming for her to go, and Hayes is in front of me, and he's half on the passenger seat. Hayes is behind him, and I'm behind him, and I had him, and I'm just holding him around the jaw, and I'm just like not choking him, but I have a hold of like his jaw, and I'm trying to squeeze his jaw to try to get him to not let him get in the car. And he put his hand on the center console. I could see from my angle that he grabbed the center console.
Oh no.
And when he grabbed the center console, I thought, this is not good. So I let go of him. I grabbed my gun. I moved to the back window, because if he comes out with something, I mean, and this is all happening within
seconds.
I moved to the back window because if he comes out with something, he's going to roll on Hayes. But I want to have a good shot to, if I put one in the back of his head, to put one in the back of his head, because I don't want Hayes getting shot.
Right, you want a clear shot for sure.
And so when I let go of him, she got out of the car. Hayes, he was able to grab the steering wheel and get his left foot over by the brake in the gas, and he's straddling the center console. Hayes was tussling with him, and he got in on the passenger seat more. So he was in the car. This guy grabbed the shifter, the gear shift, and threw it in reverse. And I got nowhere to go because there was a car right next to me.
Yeah.
And the door just slams into me. I go down. I landed on my side, and I see he cuts the wheel, and then all of a sudden, my ankle, my leg, everything, the tires just going up my body, and all I could think was, get your head out of the way. And I pushed off. I remember pushing off, and the tire literally just went right past my face and my head, just rolled over my shoulder, and rolled up my arm. And I took my watch off a few minutes ago, but I always have a watch on, and it just ripped my watch right off, and it rolled off, and then it goes back. Now it's just rolled over me. It's just driven over me, and I remember the whole thing like it was yesterday, and I remember being under the car and getting run over, but my whole body's spinning, like rolling as I'm getting run over. Like it's caught under the car in such a way that not only is the tire rolling over me, but it's spinning my body at the same time. And I look up and I see him, and he slams right into a pickup truck. And now all I can think is, I got to get out of the way. He's going to run me over again. So he throws the car in drive. I stand up, and I moved off to the side, and he comes flying by me. I didn't see Hayes in the car. I didn't see that Hayes had fallen out of the car. And he comes flying by me, and I thought, there's 2 kids in the car. Don't shoot, right? Don't shoot. If he hits you again, you're going to have to eat it, but you can't shoot the kids, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
right.
So I remember trying to run after the car and just collapsing because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And I remember Hayes coming up to me, and I grabbed my radio, and I went to put up a help call as a 63 in Atlanta. And I go to put up a 63, and I said, nothing. There's my radio's not working at all. And Hayes comes up to me, goes, "You okay?" And I said, "No." Now I really feel like I can't breathe. I feel like everything is crushed. And I'm laying on the ground. I'm flat on my back, and my hips are turned off to the side. Oh, this is not good. This is not good. I can't put my hips straight. And and my ankle hurts like hell. Everything hurts on me. And I feel my chest, and it literally just feels like I don't know how to describe it. It almost feels like a Stretch Armstrong doll or something like that, where there's nothing, there's no
bone,
there's no bone. It's just shifting. It's just moving.
That's not good.
I think he crushed all my ribs, and I probably have internal bleeding. And I thought, God, please don't let my phone be dead. So Hayes is putting up the help call. He's saying I was run over. And I grabbed my phone out of my pocket, and it worked, thank God. And I called my wife and son and said, my wife got on the phone, and I still give her shit about this. So I'm going to talk about it in the podcast in case she watches it.
First of all, we love you, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife never used to cook. Now she cooks all the time. But my wife, because she works so much, she, is always like, I'll stop and pick up Chinese or pick up a pizza or something. And so, the joke was always, she's always so busy that she just doesn't cook. So I'd always give her grief, like, are you going to cook tonight?
Right.
And I call her up, and she answered, and I'll never forget, she just was so happy. And she said, "Hey, I'm making chicken Parmesan, and don't eat."
Fuck, Pat.
And I said, "Honey," I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it home." And she said, what are you talking about?" And I said, "I just got really hurt, really bad at work. I don't think I'm going to make it. I just want you to know how much I love you. I want Joey to know how much I love him. So I just want to tell you I love you. Can you please put Joey on the phone so I could tell him that I love him?" And he's 7 now. She goes, "Hang on, he's playing video games." And she starts screaming for him, Joey, come here, talk to your father." Well, let me back up. She says to me, before she calls my son, she goes, "Why did you call me? Why didn't you call 911?"
Sweetheart.
I said, "I am 911." You know, I said, "I need to say goodbye to Joey." So she goes, "Joey," and she calls him. And I said, "Buddy, listen to me." And he said, "Hey, Dad." And I said, "Buddy, listen to me. No matter what happens today, no matter how today ends up, you need to make me a promise that no matter what happens, you're going to always remember how much I love you." And he goes, "I know. I love you too, Dad." And he goes to hand the phone back to my wife. And I said, "Joey?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Listen to me, son. You need to understand, no matter what happens today, whether I come home or not, you need to always promise me that you're always going to remember how much I love you." And he said, "I love you too, Dad." And when he said, "I love you too, Dad," and it was almost like I was talking to an adult.
Yeah.
It was like, I felt like, and still to this day, this is the one thing that bothers me more than anything, is I felt like I stole his childhood at that point. And he put my wife back on the phone, and I said, "Listen to me. State Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, or Atlanta PD are going to be at the house shortly. Do not try to drive down to the city. And if you live in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, and you know trying to drive into town at about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to make it." So the paramedics got there, and I'll say this: the firefighters were there within seconds, and the engine pulls up, and the guys get out, and it was all the guys from the station over on Warren Street in Kirkwood, and I knew them all. And I look up, and I'm like, they're here before fucking cops.
Yep.
So I literally, I said, "What were you guys going to get dinner?" And they looked at me and went, "Yep." Like they were on their way to Kroger, and the call came up, so they were there first. And then slowly I started to. I remember somebody took off my shoe, took off my boot, my right boot, and I heard somebody go, "Oh fuck," and I knew it was bad. And I just looked up, and I remember just thinking, like, everything's getting quiet, right? Everything's. I'm not feeling pain now. I'm starting to not feel pain. Getting very tranquil. I'm very relaxed, and all I think of is, I can't believe this fucking happened. And I'm just looking at a cloud. I remember looking at a cloud, and I'm from New York. I'm from Long Island, and I remember looking at the cloud and going, "That's shaped like Long Island. I'm going home." Right? I remember thinking, "I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay." I say goodbye to my wife. I say goodbye to my son. And I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel anything. Didn't know what was going on around me. I do remember hearing somebody just before all that started to happen. Somebody said he's low sick, which means in Atlanta terms, that's like he's crashing. He's not going to make it. He's critical. So I remember thinking, I'm good. That's home, right? I'm just feeling really peaceful, and all I see is the cloud. I don't see anything. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm just thinking about how peaceful it is, and how calm I am. And all of a sudden, I thought about my son, and I thought, wait a minute. Nobody's raising my son but me. My son will never call somebody else dad. And I remember thinking, God, if you take me, I'm going to fucking tear the place up when I get there. And it was almost instantaneous. It was like that anger and the rage and everything came back over me. And now I open my eyes. There's an officer on his knees, and he's screaming in my ear, "Don't you fucking die. Don't you fucking die." And I looked over at him. I said, "Stop screaming in my fucking ear." And, and like jokingly, like I'm still not, I'm like, whatever, they're, you can tell everybody's like panicking, and but the place, there were cops everywhere now that weren't there a minute ago. It was the weirdest thing. And I never lost consciousness. I was just looking at this cloud. It was all quiet, but now everybody's there. And I remember the firefighter looking at me and saying, "We got to take off your duty belt, and we got to cut off your duty belt." And I remember thinking, those things are $45.
Yeah, bro.
I'm like, "You're not fucking cutting that." And he's like, "You can't move." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Fuck that. I'm not spending $45 on another." I'm Armenian, right? Like, I'm Armenian. And if there's anything you know about Armenian people, we're the cheapest fucking people in the world. Like, you would think I have fish hooks in my pocket. We are the cheap. I don't know any Armenian who wants to pick up the bill going out to dinner or anything. And we're truly cheap. And I was like, I'm not buying another fucking duty belt. And so they're like, "No, you got to lay still. You can't move your back." And I still feel my hips are pointed to the side and everything. And I remember going, "No, no, no, I got this." And I remember like screaming, letting out this massive scream. And they're all looking at each other. And I'm like, "Slide it out." And they're like looking at each other and they're like, "You didn't move. You didn't move." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Fuck this." I'm like, "Do it again." And I remember like now I got it up just enough. They slide it out and you're like, "You're fucking stubborn." So
which is going to serve you well here soon.
yeah, I said to my wife, the firefighter says to me, "I'm going to give you something for the pain." And I looked at him, I said, "I don't want anything." I said, "Do not give me anything for the pain. If I feel pain, I'm going to see my son again. That's what's keeping me going. This pain is keeping me awake. It's keeping me here. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I'm in pain. Let me feel it." And I remember picking up my phone again and calling my wife and saying, "Hey, did they get there yet?" And she said, "No, my father came over. My mother's watching Joey, and we're driving down to the hospital." And I remember thinking, like, she doesn't fucking listen to shit. Like, and I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "We're stuck in traffic." And you can hear her like wanting to cry. And I remember looking around and I handed the phone to another, I think Jessica might have been a sergeant by now. Maybe she was still an officer. She's a deputy chief now. She's great. And I handed the phone to her and I said, "Can you handle this for me?" So she got on the phone and she said, "Where are you?" My wife tells her, I'm at Mansell Road, or we're coming up on Mansell Road in Alpharetta. And she said, "Get off the exit. Get off the exit, and I will have somebody meet you there." So they get off the exit, and my wife said that within like 2 minutes, there was an Alpharetta patrol car there. She never got the guy's name. She never found out anything about him. But she said he drove as if he was going to say goodbye to his best friend. And he drove her up that shoulder. She said, "Pat, I will tell you, we probably will go 120 miles an hour at some points." He was driving like he wanted to get me there. If it was to say goodbye, he was going to get me there on time. And her father tried to keep up, but he got stuck in traffic again. But I thought to myself, why wouldn't you listen to me the first time? You know?
Right.
And then the crazy thing about Atlanta is DeKalb County EMS. That's from Moreland Avenue south. Moreland Avenue north is Grady Hospital. I was south of Moreland Avenue, so I was Grady Hospital. I was DeKalb County, rather. DeKalb County EMS would not come pick me up, and Grady was tied up. I was on the ground for about 50 minutes on an officer down call.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Just sitting there going like, "Are you fucking kidding? Where is the freaking ambulance?" And I got to the hospital. My brother-in-law, who lives in the city, he was there. My wife got there a little while later. And I give her grief because my wife's 6 months older than me, but she looks like she's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So when she got to the hospital, one of the news crews reported that his mother arrived. So I give her grief about that too. It was like, his mom arrived, you know.
What a shot. What a shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. she's gonna watch this and fucking, you know what? You survived your injuries. Now you're fucking dead.
Yeah, put a pillow over your face. You don't wake up in the middle of the night with a pillow over your face.
Yeah, exactly. But she's the best, my wife. I'm really lucky. But so she got to the hospital, and I wouldn't take anything for the pain. I literally, all I could think of is I didn't take anything for the pain, and I can manage the pain. I can deal with it. And when everybody left, they left about 4 a.m, and I'm sitting in the room at Grady Hospital. I'm sitting in the room, and the nurse came in, and the only 2 shows that I could get on the entire TV were Keeping Up with the Kardashians and The Jersey Shore.
What a combo.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is torture, right? So the nurse came in and she said, can I give you something to help you sleep? And I thought, no. And she said, I'll give you the same amount of morphine that I would give to an 8-year-old with a broken arm. And I said, okay. So she gives me that little bit of morphine. I wake up the next day. I'm in a massive amount of pain, unbearable. I hit the thing. The nurse comes in. She gives me morphine. I don't remember anything after that. And I wake up again a little while later in a massive amount of pain. She came in and she gave me something. And I remembered I was waking up again in a massive amount of pain. She's still standing there. And she's looking at me, and she said to me, "Are you allergic to anything?" And I said, "No, not that I know of." She said, "Well, is anybody in your family allergic to anything?" I said, "Well, my mother couldn't take painkillers." And she said, "Well, I don't think you can either. As soon as I gave you that, your blood pressure dropped to 70/40.
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" She's like, I can't give you painkillers because I can't give you anything for the pain." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So I got to deal with this. So my injuries were, my right foot was partially torn off, but not super bad. The problem was we didn't find out until much later that the bone had been crushed and all of the flesh inside had been crushed and destroyed.
Oh.
So it literally, not only was it partially torn off, the heel bone, the talus bone, was crushed, and the flesh started decomposing.
Yeah.
So I had to get a couple of surgeries on that to save the foot. But so that happened. Both my shin bones were broken. My pelvis was broken in 3 places. My tailbone was broken. My L4 and my L5 were both broken, which they said that the doctor or nurse said that the L4, if you break either one of them, you chances are you're going to be paralyzed. And I had breaks to both of them, and they were like, I remember saying to the doctor in the emergency room, like, my foot hurts, and he looked at me like, "You can feel your foot?" And I said, "Yeah, I can feel my foot." And I think it was the way my hips and everything were positioned. It just looked like I had a severe spinal cord injury. And he was shocked, and that's all I harped on for the first 3 days was really watching my spinal cord and how I moved, because they wanted to make sure that we don't want to turn into you're paralyzed.
Right.
But all my ribs were broken. I completely obliterated my right shoulder. I tore everything in there. And my left wrist had nerve damage from when it drove over and hit my watch. But I had to endure all of that with no painkiller.
Oh, man.
So that was July 21st, and my son started school on I think it was August 5th or August 11th. I'm not sure. But I remember saying to the doctor, I need to put my son on the bus for his first day of school. And the doctor said, looked at me and said, there's no way possible you're going to be out of this hospital to put your son on the school bus. So they had to wait for me to heal to a certain degree before they could do some of the surgeries that they needed to do.
Right.
Which would require, the foot required 2 weeks 2 solid weeks at minimum in the hospital. So I spent a week at Grady, and then they moved me over to Emory Hospital in Atlanta, which Grady was great, except the food was terrible.
It always is.
Oh, it was horrible. But the hospital itself and the nursing staff and everybody were unbelievable, and it was so clean. It was in the they had one of the co-founders of Home Depot had built a wing, and it was for strokes. So they had me up there, but I had a camera right over my bed, and anytime I looked like I was in pain, the nurse would come in. So it was like I didn't have 2 seconds privacy, but it was like the best thing in the world for patient care.
Right.
And but what was one of the funny things is I don't know if you guys remember. Do you guys remember on what's that, American Idol? The guy showed up, pants on the ground. He was the old black guy, and he made the song
Pants on the Ground. Yeah.
Pants on the, so that's Larry Platt, and I knew Larry Platt. And the day before Larry came to see me, Joseph Lowry had sent somebody up to see me, and the sole purpose of sending this messenger up, whatever you want to call him, was to ask me to ask the other officers not to harm the guy when they took him into custody. And it wasn't to ask my wife if she needed anything. It was because the suspect was black, and Joseph Lowry didn't want him to be injured when taking me into custody. Didn't care if I needed anything, didn't care if I was injured. The sole purpose was to find out if I would be so kind as to ask this of the other officers. So obviously he never made it into my room. The guys, the security detail at the door stopped him and said, you're you kidding? And so Larry Platt, who was a civil rights, he was very heavily involved in the civil rights area, was a dear friend of mine. I love him to death. He was outside, and my wife heard people telling him go away. Like they thought he was there for the same thing. They didn't realize I knew him. And she said, "Hey, I think the pants on the ground guy is at the door." And I knew Larry from the neighborhood. And I said, "No, I want him." So they let him in, and he came in, and he was crying and hugging me and feeling terrible. And I telling me he loved me. I told him I loved him. I said, you had nothing to do with this. This wasn't you. And he was enraged that that Joseph Lowry had asked somebody to come over to see me from his coalition. He was absolutely livid, and he said, I will personally take that up with him. But I said, "Listen, Larry, can you do me a favor? Can you make light of this?" And he said, "Well, what is that?" I said, "Can you do a song for me?" And he said, "You want pants on the ground?" I said, "No." "Can you change the lyrics?" And he said, "Well, what do you want the lyrics to be?" I said, "Can you do pats on the ground looking like a speed bump, pats on the ground?" So he made this, and we must have it somewhere. My wife's probably got it on an old phone or something, but he did the song pats on the ground, looking like a speed bump, pats on the ground. And it was just so funny. And so my determination was I'm not going to let this beat me mentally.
Right.
And when my mother was dying of cancer, I'll never forget. I was just married, and she was in the hospital, and she knew her time was limited. And I remember sitting by her bed, and I was crying, tears in my eyes, and she said, "I'm ready." And I said, "Mom, why don't I pray every night that you're going to be okay?" And why are you okay with this? Why aren't you praying for a cure? And she said, when I'm paraphrasing. She said, when you and your brothers and your sister were born, I never thought to myself, God, you gave me 6 kids with 10 toes, 10 fingers, and why did you do that? Why don't you take something away? I never thought about that. I never thought about not asking for all the blessings in my life. So what right do I have to ask to take this away? And what makes me so special that I can't have cancer? And because I thought to myself, why my mother, of all the people in the world, why my mother? She's such a good person. And she, she said, you can't do that. Anything you do in life, you have to ask yourself, why not me?
Right.
Like, why not me? Whether it's good or bad. If there's something bad, there's the dog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Studio dog.
if something bad happens, say to yourself, why not me? You're not any better than anybody. But by the same token, when you see something good happening or an opportunity, think to yourself, why not me for that too? So don't go through life with a victim's mentality. And that's how I tried to face my accident, my injury, and it really truly helped me through. Um, and I went to Emory, and all I thought about was my son. Like, I'm putting my son on that school bus, and they would, the food was amazing. Everybody told me, you're gonna like the food here. Food was amazing, to the point where I was ordering 2 meals for lunch. I was trying to get my weight back.
Hell yeah.
Because you're sitting in a hospital, but people don't
Right.
realize how rapidly your body atrophies.
Yes.
And my muscles, I remember sitting there going, like, I tried to tighten the muscles in my leg, and it was like all jelly.
Yep.
And they got me to stand up, and they got me to stand up for the first time. They wanted me to go as long as I could. And I stood up next to my bed, and I think it was 17 seconds. I went, and when I tell you, it was 17 seconds, doesn't sound like a long time, but I always saw movies and thought, wow, they're making it look so difficult. I collapsed back into my bed after 17 seconds and was dripping in sweat and took a nap. And that was the extent of it. I remember feeling nauseous because it was just such a unbelievable strain on my body.
Yeah.
But I would go down to physical therapy every day. They would wheel me down, and they would put me through whatever they were putting me through, and then they'd bring me back to my room to have lunch. Well, I would eat my lunch quick, and I would go back down to physical therapy on my own. And they would come in from lunch wherever they were at. They had like a break. I remember they'd constantly coming back in, and they would see me there was like this little arm bicycle, and they'd be in there, and they'd be like, well, how did you get down here? And I'm like, I had the wheelchair in my room, and I transferred over to it. And they're like, you're not supposed to do that. You're a fall risk. And I said, you don't understand. I'm going to put my son on that fucking school bus. And they knew I was serious. So whatever it was that they had to do, they gave me like double the PT, triple the PT. And I learned to move myself around on my hands, even with my ribs broken and my shoulder obliterated and everything else. I moved myself around and would transfer on the wheelchair, and I got to the point where they let me go home for a few days to put my son on the bus, and then I went back to the Shepherd Center in Atlanta for the ankle surgeries, and after my second surgery, my son and my wife didn't have anybody to watch my son the first surgery. And so he came there, and when I woke up, he was there. When I got wheeled back in my room, he was there, and it was the coolest thing. And then the second day, my mother-in-law was home, so she was watching him, which is a blessing, because whoever it was didn't read the chart. And I really genuinely think that they had every intention of doing the right thing, and saying, we don't want this detective. This is the detective from the news. We don't want him to wake up in pain. So let's give him a painkiller before he goes into recovery.
Oh no.
And let's he can go back to his room. So I don't remember any of this. My wife has told me the story a million times. That all I remember is I woke up, and I remember my injuries. The pelvis is broken, the tailbone's broken, the ribs are broken. This is about 4.5 weeks out since the accident, and I woke up in my room and everybody is surrounding my bed. I just see doctors everywhere, and there's somebody at my feet, and I just felt this immense pain. And I tried to punch the person at my feet. I did a full sit up and tried to swing at him and punch him. And everybody's telling me to calm down, relax, that I almost died.
Oh, God.
So I lay down and I'm sitting there like, I'm confused. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look over and there's a priest holding my wife. They called a priest in for last rites. So whoever it was, when they gave me the painkiller, they evidently didn't read the chart, but I coded. And the nurse came in. I didn't wake up in recovery, and she said that he wheeled me back in from recovery, and the person who wheeled me back in said to my wife, because she was in my room, "We don't know why he's not waking up, but he should be up soon." And then the nurse came in, and the nurse said, "Yeah, he should be up by now." And she said she was checking on me and checking my vitals, and then all of a sudden she just knows the next thing, that all these alarms start going off, and the nurse is freaking out, and she's running around, and people are running in the room, and they don't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on, and she's the next thing that she knows, they're resuscitating me, and I don't know if they hit me with the paddles or they injected me with some kind of Narcan or what. I was out of it, and but she said that was very scary, and thank God my son was not there to witness that.
Oh, God, yeah.
But yeah, so that was an ordeal. So that was like the first few weeks of the accident, and then the recovery. And the reason why I said earlier is that a black officer had met me was important, was because I'm in physical therapy one day, and I'm in a wheelchair, and one of the supervisors called me from internal affairs and said, "Can you come in and make a statement?" And I thought, why do I have to make a statement? And this is not how this department is now. I will say that. So let me just, anybody who's listening to this, if you're thinking of applying to Atlanta PD, I know Chief Sherbaum, I know Chief Tyus, I know Chief Smith, I know Chief Bruce. They are the salt of the earth people. They're phenomenal people. And as a matter of fact, the other night I was talking to Chief Tyus, and he didn't know this. He was a detective in Midtown at the time, and he was shocked when I told him the story. They called me up and asked me to make a statement because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't harassing this person because of the color of his skin.
Get out.
And I thought, I got so pissed. And I said, this fucker is going to make that his defense. And he paused. And now I knew the sergeant really well. He was a classmate of mine. And he said, "Pat, it's internal." And I was shocked. I said, "It's internal." He said, "I don't know who it was, but they wanted this investigated." So I was livid. I said, "Jeff, can you take my statement over the phone?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "My statement is this. Any person who thinks that this is an investigation that should be done or something that should be investigated can eat my dick." So he starts laughing. He goes, "Pat, I'm not putting that in the file." I said, "Jeff, you put that in the file." I said, "I'm so mad right now, I don't even want to talk." So I hang up. About a week goes by, calls me back again. Perfect timing. I'm in physical therapy, in a wheelchair, trying to get my workout in. He says, "Can we set up a time for you to come in?" I said, "Yeah, Jeff, I'm not mad at you. It's not your fault. You didn't put this through. Can you take my statement over the phone?" He said, "Yeah, I can take your statement over the phone." I said, "Okay." I said, "At my official statement, anybody who thinks that this is something that should legitimately be investigated can eat my dick." And he starts laughing. He goes, "What's your official statement?" I said, "Jeff, if you make my wife drive down there just so I could say the same fucking thing on recording, I'm going to be really pissed. So you put it in the file because it's not going to change. And if I have to go into a Cobra meeting, which is the chief's meeting and the command staff meeting, if I have to go into a Cobra meeting and say it, I'll say it. I said, but it's not changing.
Fucking love it.
I didn't do anything fucking wrong. I almost fucking died. The color of the person's skin who ran me over, the color of the person who ran me over was a fucking career criminal.
Right.
His color of his skin had nothing to do with why I was there. He was a fucking criminal. It was it. And he's completely different than anybody I work with. The only thing they may have in common is a pigment, and that's it.
Right.
So his character is who he is. And so I said it's not going to change. So that, from what I understand, is my official statement. But the assistant chief now, who is just, I mean, like I said, he's just a fucking great guy. Was a great guy as a detective and has never changed all the way up through the command staff. He looked at me and he said, I was in the office when the investigator came across the radio and got you and asked you to make a call to him and gave you the description of the perp. Why on God's earth would somebody not listen to that recording?
Right.
And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, so in the book that we're working on, I'm going to put all that, but I just want to make sure that people know that it's two different departments, right? Like it's not who's there now. It's, the chief now is just, I mean, I'd run through a wall of fire in gas-soaked underwear for him. He's just such a good guy, and
Yeah.
every command staff. If he called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, I need you to help me with something," I'd what do you need? You need me to help you move? You need whatever you need. I got you. They're great people. But it was one person in the command staff that fucking just floored me. So I ended up taking my retirement solely because my feeling was that if I have John Q. Citizen and they're the victim of a heinous crime, and I arrest a person, and I'm in Atlanta, right? So it's Atlanta. It's, you're statistically you're likely to lock somebody up of color, 50 times out of 100. So my feeling was, I can't do this job here, because if I get a case and this person really wants justice, is it fair to them that the investigation falls into my lap and
Right.
a defense attorney pulls this out at trial, and all I need is one person on that fucking jury to say maybe he's just choosing somebody based on the color of their skin? That's not fair to my victim.
Right.
So I really felt like that fucking asshole, whoever it is that was in that command staff, I felt like they cost me my career. Like I felt like they forced me out, because I couldn't in good conscience look at somebody who was the victim of a crime and say, I'm sorry, my circumstances, me getting hurt, me getting almost killed in the line of duty, have cost you justice because of one asshole. And that was my my feeling on it. And that's why I left. But that was it. So, you got any questions before I move on to just after that?
Yeah, brother. I mean, fuck. There's so much to unpack. Like,
Yeah.
you had me in tears. I was getting shivers. My chin was quivering. A lot of things you said are things that like I also experienced as well, and it just fucking gutted me over here. I mean, the one question I have for you is, what was it like seeing your wife for the first time in the hospital? Do you remember? Does she remember seeing you?
I remember she came in and she just looked panicked, and I just wanted to. I was worried about her.
Yeah.
Right. And I was worried about my son. Like, where is he? Like I didn't. Part of me wanted to just see him and hold him and hug him and love him, because my conscious memory is the last thing I said to him was he said, "I love you, Dad," but it wasn't what he said. It was the tone.
Yep.
And still to this day, when I talk about it, that guts me a little bit, because I really feel like even as a 21-year-old, he's always been afraid to fail. Like I was telling you earlier about the car accident when I was teaching him how to drive. He's always been ultra hard on himself, and always been not a nervous kind of kid, but just never wanted to. He almost like he never got to really fully experience being a kid. Just saying fuck it and getting in trouble. And one time he walked down the street. Neighbors came to call for him, and he was like, I don't know, 12, 13. And I said, stay on the street. And he said, okay. And I'm watching them, and they're all going down to the corner. And next thing I see is they turn the corner and they go start making a right up the corner. And I said, I told this kid to stay on the street. So I start walking up that way because it's getting dark. And I get probably about 5 or 6 houses down, and he starts walking back by himself. And I said, well, what's the matter? And he said, I'm never talking to them kids again. I'm never playing with them again. And I said, well, why? And what happened? Did they hurt you or do something? Because now I'm mad, like you see your guy. And he said, no. He said, Dad, he said, they told me to go knock on a door and ask for so-and-so, some kid. And I went up to the house, and I'm going to knock on the door, and the guy answered the door and started yelling. And I asked if the kid, I said I was only here to play with this kid. And he said, well, why are you coming? Why do you kids come every day and knock on my door? And he said, I never came and knocked on your door before. They just came and got me and asked me to knock on your door. So the kid didn't even live there. They just wanted him to go up. And he said when he looked back, they'd all ran off. So they were setting him up for like ding dong ditch.
Right.
This person they had pissed off so much for the previous days. And he said, why would they knock on people's door and just run away and have fun and think that was funny? And it was like, because it kind of is part of being a 12-year-old.
12, yeah, right.
But he was always so serious. I was like, so I always felt like, because it was because of that call, like he was always just the happiest go luckiest kid in the world up until that call. And then even when he came to see me the first time in the hospital, I'll never forget. I was laying in bed, and I was just so happy to see him, and his eyes filled up with tears. And I said, "It's okay, buddy. I'm going to be okay." So if you need to cry, cry. And he goes, "Nope, it's just really dusty in here, and I don't like it. It's bothering my allergies." And he walked out of the room, and my mother-in-law went with him. And I just thought, like, it's okay, And it was like he grew up too fast, and that's the one thing that probably bothers me more than anything. I wake up in pain some days, but when I think about that bothers me more than anything.
Yeah, and it's same for me. I don't really get too upset about what happened to me. I get upset about what it did to my family.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you're the same way.
100%. That was that's the worst thing that bothers me. Then the 30, the doctors, the doctors, because I can't do a lot of what I used to do. I used to be able to do a lot. And I still get out and coach, and I'm pretty athletic and everything. But the doctors even said, you have 32% body loss, but the pension board decided that I wasn't ineligible for a medical pension.
Stupid.
According to the City of Atlanta rules. So, you just kind of you accept it and you just move on and you say that's fine.
Right.
But if I find out if you've given somebody else a pension with lesser injuries, I'm coming back and I want my back pay.
Yeah, 100%.
So
let's take a quick break and then we'll finish up. You wanted to bring up something really quick, and I had a question. I was going to ask the same thing. So go ahead and take it over, brother.
So back to trying to get certified through the state of Georgia.
After all that,
we're trying still, right? We're still plugging away, and all I can think about is this little girl. And 2013 rolled around, and we had two more times. I think it was twice more. obviously I had to take some time off because of the injury and everything else. But I think it was 2 more times that we go and we're going through the process and they quit last minute. And we had to start the whole process over. And I guess it's got to be something with the same case manager has to see it start to finish. And it's just very frustrating. So in February 2013, I think it was, I get the Broken City Award for the movie Broken City. They premiered it in Atlanta, and they called the mayor's office and asked for somebody who's deserving of an award, a police officer. So they award me the Broken City Award, and they wanted to hear my story on the red carpet, and there were newspapers and media from all over the world, England. I remember there was a reporter from England and all over America, in different magazines and such. So I told my story. I told the story of my accident and a little bit about my career. But so it made big news again. Like I brought me back into the news. So I was sitting at home one day. I met Mark Wahlberg through this, and he said he wanted to make a movie about my career, and he'd be interested in doing it. And I think that's what really spurred the even more media attention. So next thing I know, I'm in the news a lot, and I just get pissed off sitting at home, and I picked the phone. My wife was out, and she came home and she said, "Who are you on the phone with?" And I said, "I'm on the phone with the governor's office." So I called, and I asked to speak to the governor, and they were like, "Well." It was, put me through to his secretary, and I said, "Well, this is the guy who's all over the fucking news from Atlanta PD, and I think I'm going to call all these media outlets that have been at my house and talk about how broken your foster care system is." And they were like, "Well, what's up?" And I said, "I've been trying to adopt this little girl to get at least custody of her for 3 years, and I don't even know what the status is with her anymore." So next thing I know, my phone is blowing up. I mean, for the next 2 weeks, I got calls morning, noon, and night from people in the governor's office, and he never picked up the phone to talk to me directly, but it was in very short order that my start to finish was done, and I was cleared. This little girl was no longer in the foster care system. She had been given back to her mother, and it doesn't have a good ending, unfortunately. But I told my wife, we went down, and it was the saddest thing. We went down to a hotel, and it was these, the 10 by 10 canopy tents that you have outside. They were at a hotel down by the Atlanta airport, and there was one from every county in the state of Georgia that had pictures of kids that were all up for adoption, that had the parental rights had been terminated. So it's like you're trying to pick out something that fits. So I just signed up for a few different kids that would, look like they were, of the age that I would want, so that, it didn't affect my son too much.
Right.
And they called me, said I was approved for a sibling group, and come to find out that they just had too many issues and they had acted out sexually on other kids, and said I can't bring that into my house. But then they called me and they said, "Well, we have this other 2-year-old, that's in foster care." And I said, "Well, what's, can you tell me what's with her?" And she said, "Well, she has seasonal asthma." I said, "But what other issues?" And they said, "Nothing." I said, "Well, a 2-year-old that's cleared for adoption is like unheard of in foster care." And I said, "No, she's yours. And matter of fact, we'll place her this Friday. We won't even do the meet, every weekend where you got to meet for a little bit longer. And then after a month, we place her." So they put her in my house. So I met her that Friday, and she stayed. She's been with me ever since. So my daughter's 14 now. So we adopted her in October of 2013.
Oh, I love it, brother. I love it.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart that you weren't able to, foster that original girl. I mean, I know that played on you as well, and I'm sure it still does to this day.
Yeah, it did. And from what I understand, and the thing that bothers me, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
Right.
I love my daughter more than anything. She's mine. Right. Like
Right.
that's where I don't think of her any different other than the fact that she's mine. I worry sick about her. I want to choke her. And then she's at that point where she just talks to me like I'm one of her friends,
Right.
So, but come to find out that the mother had lost her again. She went back into foster care, and then the mother abducted her from foster care and ended up turning her out and putting her out on the streets.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so that was really difficult. I found out about a year and a half ago, and that was a really difficult pill to swallow because I wasn't expecting that. And I guess in my mind, I had made this perfect little world up
Right.
where he was good to go. But I know you guys are big on mental health, so I know you got a hard stop. P-Shock mentioned, I think he called him Sam in the beginning of his book.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he told you, I was the officer. I'd retired and gone to work for a small little office. I have a different take on Sam because I was the one who went to the house that night.
Right. I remember the story.
And it was a call of his wife having a miscarriage. And when I got there, she came out of the house hysterical crying and the door shut behind her. And when she got in the ambulance, there was another officer there, a supervisor, and it was my last night ever of working. I had given my notice. And she got in the ambulance hysterical crying, and I asked her, I said, is this your first child? And she said, yes. And I said, is this your husband's first child? Does your husband have kids, other kids? And she said, no. I said, so this is his first too? And she said, yeah. And everybody looked at me like, what stupid questions are that? Because the door had shut right behind her, and he was the one who called 911. So how I remember it is, I told them this ambulance doesn't leave until you tell me what's going on.
Right.
And they all looked at me like, how callous. And I thought, not my first kid. I don't think it would be with any of my kids, but especially not my first. My wife is having a miscarriage. I'm going to the hospital with her. I'm probably sitting next to her bawling my eyes out, And I went back to the house and I said, what's going on? And that's when I saw the firefighter crest on the wall, and the Marine Corps crest on the wall. And he was a big dude. He was not a guy. And he said, what are you still doing here? Get my wife and get to the hospital. And he was angry. And I said, something's going on here. And that's when I went back to the ambulance. And I said, listen, you're not telling me something. Tell me what I need to know. Otherwise, you're not going to the hospital. And that's when she broke down and told me what exactly was going on. And that's when I went back and I said, do you know Dennis P-Shock? And he said, yeah, he's my lieutenant or captain or whatever he is. And I said, well, I will square it with him, but you're taking 3 days off and you're going to go get yourself help. And he said, well, what do you care? And I said, well, because I've been in your shoes. I've been down that road. You know what it's like, Dom. You've been through this, and
Yeah.
You survive something so traumatic just to at times want to take your own life.
Yep.
And I saw that. I could tell. I said, something's not right here. But yeah. So that was the way I ended my law enforcement career, which couldn't ask for a better way to end it.
Oh, brother, you saved someone's life.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because if I remember correctly, that gentleman was going to off himself, correct, or commit suicide, correct?
He actually had tried to shoot himself in the head in front of her. That's why he wanted her to leave.
Right.
He told her, if you don't leave, I'm taking you with me.
Yeah.
He tried to stop him, and I think the trigger had jammed on one, and then he was trying to fix the gun, and he had an AD into the dresser.
Right.
Or nightstand or whatever. And that's when he realized, okay, it just jammed for a second. He's like, and she was like, please don't do it in front of me. And he's like, well, then leave and say this. But he absolutely had every intention. And I got a Facebook message just before Christmas that year of him holding his newborn. And he said, she wouldn't be here if I wouldn't be here to hold my daughter if it wasn't for you, and she wouldn't be here to be held by her dad.
Brother.
So
You had a
but
fucking beautiful career, man. I mean,
couldn't ask for a better way to end it, right? Saving somebody's life who fucking appreciates it, you
yes,
know?
yes. And then, I mean, his whole family, like his wife, his daughter, now gets to
Yeah.
grow up with a father because of your
Hmm.
actions and you seeing your gut feeling. I
Yeah.
mean, that always gets overlooked. And brother, my hat is off to you. You are a fucking rock star, brother. I'm gonna ask you one
Yeah.
last question before we take off. What is, after everything you've been through in your career, almost losing your life, saying that, saying your goodbyes to your family when you think it's going to be done. What's some advice you could give to officers or firefighters out there today, or anyone who's listening to this podcast?
I would tell you, you're not the hero. Trust me, you're not the hero. You can be the hero in anybody's day at any given time, but when you kiss your wife goodbye and your spouse goodbye and your kids goodbye, deep down inside they know you may not walk through that door. So don't be the hero, or don't try to be the hero when you go to work. Get home safe to them, because they're the ones who fucking deserve it. Right. And don't take it home. I said to you earlier, I said I put the thing on my Facebook page that said, don't let your kids, I think it was, don't let your kids get wet from your storm.
Your storm.
Don't bring it home to them. Fucking be a good dad to your kids. Be present. Don't just spend time with your kids as an officer. Sometimes you're just in the room with them. No, be present with them. Be
Right.
with your kids.
Right.
Be with your wife. Like, notice your wife. Don't take your wife for granted. And in this career, in this profession, women love that uniform, but love your wife. Like, she's the one who's got your fucking back. And when
Right.
it's all said and done, she's the one who's got your back. So, if I could give any advice to a young officer, is just don't try to be the hero, and remember who you owe it to, because the heroes are truly the ones that are at home, because they know how much you love the job.
Right.
So,
Bro, beautiful. Gary?
No, I think it's a awesome pearl.
Oh, absolutely, man. And thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, honor's all ours, man. And it's definitely an honor to know you as a person, as a man. Now, I mean, brother, this is phenomenal. We appreciate you coming on. P-Shock wasn't lying when he said you'd be a good person to have on the show.
Oh yeah, P-Shock's fucking awesome.
Oh, the best, brother. Shout out P-Shock. You literally had me fucking rolling over here, brother. I was all over the place emotionally, laughing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
gonna be a good fucking movie if it ever gets made.
Oh, I'll be watching it, brother. I'll be watching it on opening night when it comes out on a Thursday.
Hey,
I'll be there.
Just got to make sure the flashlight story makes it into the movie.
Yeah.
yeah. Else that'll be their opening scene. Yeah. The theater will walk out.
Well, brother, where can everyone find you on social?
I'm at Detective Pat on Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, Detective Pat. Sometimes I'll post some jokes on there. Most of the time it's cold cases and things like that. And I mean, you can send me a friend request at DET Pat. I don't accept stranger requests to my personal page, but yeah, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I got kicked off TikTok, I guess, because I was posting cold cases and it said was murdered, and I guess that's not allowed on TikTok, so I have to learn the rules better. I'm not a good social media person.
And it's Detective Pat on all of them?
Yeah, a Detective Pat. And then I think Instagram is Patrick Apoian. But you could find my name on Twitter, and then go over to Instagram for it. It's a lot of the same shit. So,
brother, honor to have you on, man. You guys check it out. Keep an eye out for Pat's book that should be coming out hopefully within the next few years. I know it's not easy to write a book, brother. So we're excited to read it, man. We really are.
Is the fucking man. I don't know how he's doing it. He's so busy, but he's. I give him credit. He's having to deal with me trying to keep everything in focus.
Right.
Has to stop me, and he's like, "Dude, slow down. Slow the fuck down."
Squirrel. Yeah, I'm the same way, brother. But brother, it was an honor, man. I'm excited for the book to come out. I hope the listeners will check that out as well. And then when the movie comes out, Marky Mark will hopefully be playing it. That'd be sick as fuck. But brother, thank you so much for coming on the show. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you guys listening to another episode of Beyond the Dispatch. It means a lot to us. We get to hear phenomenal stories like Pat and P-Shock and, all those good guys. Just do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, and we'll get you guys in the next one.